Welcome back everyone to another composition video this time. Today I want to talk about ostinatos, an incredibly useful tool for any composer, but specifically film and game composers. And yes, we will do this in MIDI as per usual, which will be up on Buy Me a Coffee. Link is down in the description. If you are someone who doesn't like that I use MIDI instead of notation, kindly move on. I'm giving you a heads up right now, so you don't complain later. I generally don't understand why this is causing so much friction on my composition and orchestration videos. It's mostly amongst traditionalists, but if I knew that this would make people this upset, I would have done it sooner. You know I like to cause a scene every now and then. I think there's an arrogance here. This is turning into a PSA. I'm going to make a chapter so you can skip ahead to the actual ostinato thing. But I think there's an arrogance to think that traditional Western classical notation invented in Europe is correct, right? And everything else is inferior and unprofessional. Really examine why you're having this reaction. If you're into notation, every resource is already catering to you, be it classes, be it books, be it online resources. They all use staff notation, so seek out those resources. But instead, you'd rather get mad about one YouTube channel, like a free resource, by the way, that does it differently. And that's the whole point of my channel, right? To present things from a slightly different perspective than other resources. Because if I was just going to do it the old-fashioned way, then I might as well just not do it because it's been done. The piano roll is more accessible. Everyone can read it. Saying it's unprofessional would be akin to saying a teacher explaining things, explaining or presenting theory on a physical piano is unprofessional, because it's about the layout. The layout just makes sense, which is why so much theory is taught right at the piano. I remember even at conservatory, if we were not taught directly at the piano, we all had, on the desks, they had printed essentially a piano roll or like a piano layout so that we could all visualize it right in front of us. There's a reason we do that. But it's also funny to me personally that the people who complain about the piano roll and that they can't read it really well would expect everyone else around the world to become fluent in staff notation while they themselves are too lazy to learn how to read the piano roll. Like, if that's too inconvenient, I don't know what to tell you. But why should everyone else have to accommodate you when most resources already do so? And then it's very often also people who feel the need to say they already have had proper education and already know everything that I'm saying, so, they have nothing to learn from me anyway. So then I ask again, examine why you feel so strongly about someone presenting musical concepts in a more accessible way when you already have the information presented and don't even need it. Like, why does it make you mad that now more people can understand the thing that you already knew? And why do you feel I should have explained it in a way that less people would have understood it? What's it to you? It's just music education. It's here for everybody. I myself am a person who sometimes needs things explained 5 different ways before I get it. So maybe my way of explaining things is the way someone needed to hear it to get it. If not, they are going to move on to the next resource, and maybe how that person explains it is how they're going to get it. That's how learning works. And there's also not much that you can convey in traditional notation that you cannot convey with MIDI. The end result is the same thing. It's the same music. I don't know why there's such a stigma still attached to it. The way I sketch out music in the piano roll is exactly the same way I would sketch it out on a piece of paper. Most of my scores exist in MIDI before they exist in staff notation. Some never exist in notation. If you were to compare my mock-ups to the live recordings that correspond with those mock-ups, it's the same music, the same essence, just conveyed differently. Is it not wise to absorb as many schools of thought as you can, not just the traditional one? Because if I just stuck to staff notation, for example, I wouldn't be a full-time composer. I'd be full-time unemployed. So, I don't know. I don't know where this attitude is coming from, but if you're coming onto this channel with this attitude, you're going to be very unhappy, because my mission here is to make things as accessible as possible, to make people understand, to demystify shit, and to just make things that seem complicated not so complicated. Either way, let's start talking about ostinatos. Ostinatos are the sister of pedal tones, which I already made a video about. Or rather, they're the opposite side of the same coin. They both create a tonal center that everything evolves around. But while pedal tones create stillness, ostinatos create forward movement, pacing, unrest, a motor, if you will, momentum. It's a rhythmic gesture. Now, you can create ostinatos best with percussion, strings, keyboard instruments, or synthetic sounds. You can also use woodwinds, just be aware that obviously they have to breathe. They are nimble enough to play ostinatos, fast ostinatos for long periods of time. It's just the breathing is an issue. And so what you want to do is have at least 2 people play the ostinato so that they can dovetail into one another. I talk about dovetailing in one of my orchestration videos, one of the orchestration tips videos, where they basically play 2-3 bars or whatever, and then the next player overlaps so that the other player can breathe, and so they basically go back and forth to play runs and like these never-ending types of lines, because they need to breathe. Unless you have some kind of vendetta against woodwinds, then be my guest. Brass is generally not nimble enough to play fast ostinatos. Technically, trumpets could, but their embouchure would be ruined before the piece is over. Again, if you hate trumpet players, by all means, but play stupid games, win stupid prizes, okay? Now, you can have very static ostinatos, which are just repeating notes of the same kind, or alternating notes, right, in a very static rhythm, or you can have more melodic, varied ostinatos. One example I have right here is from John Williams and another one from Michael Giacchino. They're a bit nicer and have more character. I'll show you what I mean. Gotta take those earrings out first so I can wear headphones. Ouch. Looks like I'm getting ready for a fight. So here we have a very known ostinato from Star Wars, Duel of the Fates. You might know this. This is one of those that I would find interesting because it has this forward momentum and it has character, right? What he also could have done is this. Right? But that has way less character and way less, It doesn't have that little extra identifiable thing that we like to have. Same thing with this thing from Star Trek, from Michael Giacchino. Right? Same thing. It has a shape as opposed to just being alternating notes. Because again, he could have just done... But that's a little less interesting. But there's a time and place for everything. But personally, for me, I like these types of ostinatos. I have used others, obviously, where appropriate. But I do like these types of things, especially because you can also build them from your theme. So you can, once you have a theme written for the show or for the game or whatever you're working on, you can take that and then take fragments of that melody and then turn it into an ostinato like that. And then it kind of ties it all together. I love doing that. Or you can also then invert it and do all kinds of little things with it. But then the music kind of feels a bit more tied together. Which isn't to say, though, that, other ostinatos aren't just as great. It's, again, time and place for everything. And whatever you prefer, it's a question of taste, really. It's not like there's a right or wrong. This is just my personal preference. You do whatever the fuck you want, okay? Now, there are different scenarios in which I like to use ostinatos in media scoring. Of course, there are 1,000 options how to use this technique. Your imagination is the limit, so don't be limited by what I'm about to show you, obviously. There's a million more ways to do it, but I just wanted to, showcase it a little bit to give you an idea of what we're doing. And then you can take it from there and, practice and shit. So what I got here is the theme from Avengers. Kind of like how I talked in my previous video about practice. This is kind of one of the exercises. You take an ostinato from one piece but apply it to a different theme. So what we're going to do as an exercise is we're going to take the Star Wars ostinato but apply it in different ways to the Avengers theme. Here's that. I did this by ear, so I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but doesn't matter. So the first most common thing to do, obviously, with ostinatos is to use it in a sort of battle sequence. So here's what I did, and then I'll go through it. But here's the Star Wars ostinato with the Avengers theme in a battle action sort of context. You understand now what I mean with the last video, like how to practice? This is what I meant. So what we got here is the theme is played by these strings. I really only did that to reinforce the horns, but here we go. Then we got the ostinato played. I added some stuff below this. Let's mute that. By the strings and these woodwinds. Obviously now I have to fill in the chords and stuff, so we got this shorts movement here in the strings that I muted initially. Let's mute the ostinato instead. Also played with this, some low stabs, low piano stabs as well. I got these filler trumpets at the end and low brass. And then we got some percussion added here, just some hits to make it more bombastic. All right, here's the full thing one more time. Right? Pretty straightforward in terms of usage. But what if we have a scene that isn't outright battle? Say we have a scene that is more like sneaking around and more stealthy. I have prepared an example right here for when that's the case. So what we have here is the ostinato once again played by the strings. The melody is played by both these flutes and these strings. First just as a singular line and then planing. I also have a video about planing in case you want to know what that is. right? That's what that sounds like. And then I just added a bunch of textures around it. For this whole demonstration, all of these, I kept it mostly orchestral, just because if I use very specific texture libraries or very specific synthesizers, then it's kind of really hard to, rebuild it in case people want to practice this and look at the MIDI. So as long as I keep it to mostly orchestral instruments, I feel like people are going to have an easier time, especially since this is about composition and not, sound design. So the thing that I did was I have this celeste thing going on, some tremolo strings, some collegnos, some pizzicatos, some flageolet and harmonics, some piteras vasques, like runs and bends and stuff, and then some harp. Almost sounds a little like James Bond. And then just some very light percussion. And that's all there is to that. Let's listen to it again. Avengers plus Star Wars ostinato in stealthy. Then another example is anticipation. I like doing this kind of thing when I have a scene where someone is, preparing the team for a fight, or I remember using this type of thing in Woodwalkers during one of the lessons when the teacher gives, the safety instructions and, gives a whole speech in front of the students. This is kind of a, hero gives a motivational speech kind of situation. So the people playing the melody is these trumpets and very softly these horns, but for the most part it is the first violins. So here's the melody. And then the ostinato is back in these strings right here. I think that's the only place, yeah. Once again, just these. Right, not much to it, just a general crescendo to go with the piece, obviously. And then we have the rest of the strings fill in the chords, and also horns and low brass filling in the chords. And then for the percussion, I just have a couple of hits here, but there's not much happening. And then, once again, the whole piece, anticipation before, a motivational speech, whatever, anticipation before big event. then the next thing we got is thoughtful or lonely. This is the kind of scene where, you know, maybe in a rom-com, the main characters just had a fight and now they're, you know, sitting in their rooms pondering life, love, whatever. Or, you know, in a period drama where, you know, the characters just, when characters are still and thinking and just kind of maybe that a little troubled inside, but the scene itself is very still. That's when I use this type of thing. And what I did here is I augmented the ostinato, so I made it half tempo, basically. Like you can do that with anything. It's called augmentation, which basically means you make something longer. So let's listen to that. Right, very different vibe, but still same melody and still the same ostinato, just much slower. So the melody here is, I sang over it, but it's basically choir right here. And the ostinato is played by harp harmonics and celeste and vibraphone. And then what I added is these flageolet and harmonics and these alternating strings right here. Some more Pteris Vasques. Is that how you pronounce that library? Anyway, I love that library. Use some finger tremolos here. A piano from Keyscape, the distant felt piano, which kind of has this really nice reverb on it. Some harp, some regular felt piano, a regular electric bass, and then we also got some time macro, time micro. So this is everything except the melody and the ostinato. Now, I generally didn't use any extra effects, like this piano already sounds like this. So I didn't have to do anything with that. With these two, I actually put shimmer on these. This is Colegno Tratto, which is bowed Colegno. So you know how you have regular Colegno. I mean, it's a special articulation anyway, where with the wood part of the bow, you hit the strings and it gives that percussive effect. You can also bow the wood part of the bow across the strings. If you're gonna do that in real life though, and not in sample libraries, warn the players so they bring a cheap bow with them, because their bows can be really expensive when they're professional session players. So, and these types of techniques can kind of damage the bows. So give them a fair warning to bring some cheap-ass bow to the session that they can ruin. And then with this one, this harp celeste mandolin patch is one of my favorites. What I did was, since the attack was a bit too harsh for this type of thing, I went into the envelope in the interface and moved the envelope, the attack a little bit so that it softens, and now it sounds almost like a bowed kind of instrument along with, you know, shimmer on it. right? It's kind of cool. But anyway, those are the only effects I put on here. Everything else is just out of the box. Obviously, I put some reverb and compression on my vocals to match everything else, but that's it. Let's listen to it one more time. Many scenes, especially in indie dramas and stuff like that, or in rom-coms, where you can use that. And then we have like outright drama, melancholic, sad stuff. Let's listen to this first. Very dramatic. So the ostinato is played by these woodwinds and just by first violin. And then we have the melody played by bassoon and cello. Right, and then the only other things I did was fill in the chords, of course, with the rest of the strings, have some choir here. And then just a sine wave bass just to thicken up the sound. Let's listen to it again. And then last but not least, this was really more from myself, because I also wanted to see if I can do some light comedic kind of quirky thing. And it is possible. Let's take a listen to that. So the melody is played by the cellist right here. Right, and then we got a bunch of other things just filling in. The ostinato is played here, along with a rhythmic thing. Right, and then down here I just have a nylon guitar with some ping pong delay on it. That's the only effect on that. And let's listen again. But so as you can see, there are many different ways to use ostinatos. This is a fun exercise. Just pick any ostinato of any piece that you like, and then pick a theme that you like, and then just mesh the two together and practice with it. This is also extremely useful if you're in a movie, you have a montage scene and you need to bridge time and you need to kind of tie it together. And especially if it's kind of a setup montage or something, or they're planning something or whatever, or some kind of training montage, this type of thing always works really nicely to tie that together. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Now you know a little bit more, and now hopefully you can go and practice this yourself and come up with 100 more variations. This is a really good exercise also at the beginning when you're about to write a movie or a TV show or video game, when you have your themes, to already make ostinatos from the themes and to already, make these little 8-bar or 10-bar, 16-bar fragments, right? I'm doing that right now actually for a movie because I know the schedule on the movie is going to be extremely tight. And so I'm already kind of making all these little snippets so that I can tap into those for the scenes when I need them and just import the tracks, just drag it over, right? And then just already have material to work with that all ties together though, because it's all based on the same themes and the same orchestrations and everything. So this is really good prep work for a movie, TV show, or video game as well, but also a really great exercise just to practice. So with that, go practice.